Doctor, could you tell us what are the main objectives of this Jamaica visit?
First, I think that it was important for me to come in to congratulate the government for taking office and the Prime Minister for a return the second time. And it was also important that we would have somebody of a caliber and antecedents, because she actually advocates for what we believe in, looking after young people, looking after adolescents, making sure that they are mainstreamed into the economy, ensuring that the demographic dividend that this country has is utilized effectively in economic development, and ensuring women's rights, ensuring that we don't have the issues of gender-based violence and all of that. So it was important for me to do that, and I thought I would come and congratulate him.
How was your meeting? You already mentioned.
It was excellent.
Yes.
It was excellent. I was very pleased that my anticipation was totally exceeded.
Was exceeded?
Yeah. She made commitments to national issues. She made commitments to regional issues, saying that she was committed to pushing these issues in CARICOM. She also made commitments to global issues. Because as we go further on this year, we have the Rio Plus 20 meeting in Rio, and we are looking at issues of sustainable development. But that, in our view, has to be sustainable development with people-centered programs and thinking, and she made commitments. And also, of course, thinking beyond Rio Plus 20 and the development space beyond 2015. She also made commitments. So we're very pleased with that.
How important is this people-centered approach to development? Why is it so critical?
It's critical because the human capacity is the most important resource any country has. And I want to believe that if we direct investment appropriately to young people, their education, their health, their reproductive health and services, and they make the right choices in their lives, they can actually drive the economy in a way that we've never known before. And as we think through this process of the Rio Plus 20, and we're thinking about green growth and green economy and making sure that there's sustainability in planet Earth, we can actually use them as entrepreneurs for green growth. And I think that those are the things that we need to begin to think about and to apply our minds to.
It was formerly thought in important economic circles that issues such as equality, issues having to do with equity and so on, that these were really subsidiary issues to economic growth. In your view, how important are the issues of equity to development overall?
I think very important and very central, because I also want us to begin to think about economic growth and social equity in the broader sense. Because it is only when you have a political economy that is stable that you actually have development. Because everything else, because if as we've seen, the 1% and the 99% kind of argument that is going on around the world, I don't think that's how we should drive it. I think we should continue to interrogate the process to ensure that as much as possible, I think, we don't get close to it, but as much as possible, there are equal opportunities and equal access to education, to services, to credit, to jobs, to participation. I think that's really important.
Economies the world over are fixated now on on macroeconomics, on getting the macroeconomic environment right, dealing with inflation, interest rates, and so on. Do we run the risk of not having a broader view of development? Do we run the risk of not paying attention to the things that United Nations Population Fund sees as important in this obsession with the macroeconomy?
I think, Ian,
as important as that is.
Yes, it's important.
And as foundational as that
and
is.
I think you are right. But I think I want us to look at the context in which all that is happening. It's happening because, you know, there's a global crisis we are dealing with. And so there is like an emergency which everybody seems to be trying to fix. But I think that in as much as that is important, we also must retrofit and ask ourselves, you know, there are other issues that relate to this, which we have to carry along and fix at the same time. Otherwise, we'll find that we'll fix something and it is fragile and it's jeopardized, and we have to come back to where we started from. So a new thinking around, you know, global
holistic view of development.
Yes, needs to happen. And I want to say that one of the challenges that I see within this is that we are not seeing too many global leaders who are courageous enough to make long-term commitments to these issues. And I think I can understand that. Politics drives many of this.
All politics is local.
And politics, local, global, elections are near, and people are not willing to make the commitments that are required, you know, in order for these things to happen.
Yeah. How important is global coordination, or certainly a strong multilateral institutions, strong international organizations to ensure that the interests of developing countries particularly are protected?
I think they're very important. I think they're extremely important because, and I've been to capitals in the world where governments argue multilateral against bilateral, especially donor countries. And I keep telling, you know, my colleagues in those capitals to say, you know, you invest, say, $10 million in a developing country. That developing country might not have the capacity to absorb the $10 million. And you might not actually get the returns on investment, which is optimal for the $10 million. But if you give it to a multilateral platform that has the expertise, the integrity, and the track record, you'll actually get better value for it. Because those multilaterals don't only work in the countries you're interested in. They also have, you know, expertise that they've been able to garner from working in many parts of the world. United Nations and the United Nations Population Fund works in 140 countries. So we know the context. We know what the issues are. We know we can share experiences, and we can bring south to south, we can bring north to south, and we can work within a region to make a difference. So I think multilateralism is the way to go.
The goals and objectives of the United Nations Fund are well known. Is there a particular emphasis, a priority of priorities that you bring to the job as executive director? What consumes you?
What consumes me is, and I would just exemplify it. This morning, I went to the Victoria Hospital, and I saw young girls of less than 16 who are pregnant. I saw, there was a particular one there. She was very bright. I asked her, so what are your plans for your life? And she said, she's going to go back to school. She wants to be able to go to college. She wants to be able to establish herself. Now, the issue of a pregnancy before 16 is a distraction for that kind of mind. And I'm happy that the Prime Minister is committed to making sure that through the Women's Development Foundation that these girls are having a second chance in life. But it doesn't happen in many parts of the world.
But what is happening here?
No.
It doesn't happen in
Doesn't
many parts
happen.
of the world.
When they get pregnant, they go.
The
That's it.
opportunity.
They go out of school. When they get pregnant, they are not seen again. In fact, in many parts of the world, the young girls are married off.
True.
And they don't have a voice. They don't have a choice. You know, and all they become are factories to make babies for some man who is probably 40 years older than them. And I think that really we need to redress that. We need to give voice to young girls. We need to give voice to young boys. We need to address the issue of young people. Today, out of the 7 billion people in the world, 1.8 billion are young people. 90% of them are in the developing world. We need to empower them.
High unemployment rates.
Yes, we need to empower them, we need to give them access to education. And education this time is not numeracy and literacy. It is education, you know, for skills for the market so that they are employable, so they can actually be useful to their society and their communities. And I think that that's what drives me. And I want to say that particularly the young adolescent girl, we need to protect our space.
How important is the issue of values in all of this? Values we impart to young people.
Important, because values drive society, and values are what, in fact, you pass on to your children and to your community, and I think these are very important.
Your assessment of Jamaica so far would show that, as you said a while ago, we are ahead in some areas. Would you say that from what you have seen, we seem to be moving in the right direction in terms of how we're tackling social issues?
I would say that, but of course, there is always some more to do. And in an interconnected world, you need to make sure that the fragility that the global economic crisis is causing, you know, is limited in its effect on Jamaica. You know, more jobs for young people, you know, making sure that they have access to education and all, and to an extent, making sure that Jamaica, which really is like the leading light in the Caribbean, you know, continues to interrogate the issues of social development and provide an example for the rest of this region going forward.
Yeah. I know there's some rethinking on the middle-income developing country status, and certainly the global financial crisis has made more dire the condition of middle-income countries. They find themselves in a position almost similar to the heavily indebted countries, which the IMF and the World Bank have paid special attention to. What are your thoughts on this? What should the international community be doing about particular middle-income countries whose debt to GDP are extremely high?
I think, you know, and we from the development pillar see things maybe slightly different. I do accept that the GDP measure for classification is one way of measuring.
One index.
But I think that we might have to go beyond that to actually, you know, be able to access what is happening on the ground in those countries. And I give you one example. If you were to, for an example, talk about many Latin American and Caribbean countries today, they would have achieved the Millennium Development Goals of many, including the one about maternal mortality
Yes.
and infant mortality. But I today saw, under 16-year-olds pregnant. I saw that they are at risk. I saw that they are vulnerable. And that is the picture that we see in the region. And so to that extent, we need to begin to contextualize our inquiry and begin to say, you know what, if you really must assist countries to develop and to be stable and their economies to grow, we have to do a bit more and maybe look at models, economic models that addresses their issues in different ways. So that's the context in which I work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Good.
much.
You're the most stimulating interviewing.